Medical File was a program that featured true drama stories from actual medical files from doctors. It is a South African radio show broadcast in 1969 to 1973, then again from 1975 to 1979.
This is a true story, taken from an actual medical file.
15 men on a day-man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. Drink and the devil is done for the rest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum.
Treasure Island may seem a long way from the quiet, clinical order of a doctor's waiting room, but this evening I want to tell you about a man whose career spanned both the world of medicine and the life of a buccaneer. The amazing Dr. Dover.
Medical File. Factual stories of the men and women whose vigilance guards our lives. A reconstruction of clinical case histories, step by step with the doctors who were there. Medical File.
Before we actually meet Dr. Dover, we must take a look at the state of medicine during the 18th century. And a very good example of the terrifying state of affairs could be found at Versailles. Although this was the palace of Louis XIV, illness and death were a constant reality. The hazards to human life in those days were childbirth for women, battle for men, babyhood, and smallpox for everybody. Smallpox patients were regularly bled, and generally they died. Infant mortality was appalling.
Well, you've seen the child. What is your opinion?
Your Majesty, your son is very ill.
I can see that for myself. My wife has borne 7 children. Only 2 are still alive. I know when a child is ill. What I want to know is, can you save him?
Sire, the flux will drain him unless we stop it.
How?
It does not respond to normal methods of bleeding and purging, and so, with your permission, I'd like to try something new.
The child will die if you don't try this new method?
Yes, sire.
Very well. Try it. Try anything but save my son.
And so, with grave misgivings, the Swiss physician Helvetius tried his new cure. It worked. The child's dysentery was halted, and Louis XIV was overjoyed.
Helvetius, your cure, it worked.
Yes, sire.
Name anything, and you shall have it.
I leave that to you, sire. Reward me in the way you think best.
Very well, I shall. There's something else I want to know. What was in that cure you gave my son?
I'm afraid that is a secret, sire.
Is it? Well, it cannot remain a secret. Helvetius, I will double your reward if you will tell me what was in that potion.
Sire, we doctors prefer to keep our remedies secret.
Don't argue with me, Helvetius. I want to know what was in that remedy, and I will know. Every doctor must be able to use it.
Very well, sire. The main ingredients, the one which cured your son, is ipecacuanha.
Strange name. What is it?
A medicine which comes from South America. Apparently the Indians of Brazil use it to cure stomach ailments. It is new to Europe.
Ipecacuanha. Helvetius, you and your cure shall be made famous.
So King Louis paid Helvetius a vast sum of money for his secret remedy, and made it generally known. However, the use doctors made of the new drug was a poor acknowledgment of the king's generosity. It was regarded as a cure-all, and prescribed for complaints for which it had no value. It was given in excess, on the principle that if a medicine was good in a certain quantity, it must be twice as good, given twice the amount. and then produced serious effects. And so the drug became unpopular with responsible physicians. My story now moves to London, where, during the second half of the 18th century, there was practicing a remarkable physician. His name was Thomas Sydenham. At the time when we first meet him, he had two students, Hans Sloane and Thomas Dover.
No, you two. You, Thomas, and you, Hans, have asked to be allowed to study with me. Well, I accept you as my students, and I will teach you what I know. But there are one or two things that you must understand before we begin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Our knowledge of disease is pitifully small. We work in the midst of a morass of fear and misunderstanding. People often believe that we are more like magicians who can work a miracle than men of science. Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, we can work no miracles, and we must never promise them to our patients. Neither must we be hasty in our diagnosis or our treatment. I say to you, gentlemen, that there is only one way of determining the patient's disease, and that is by a careful and detailed study of the symptoms. Wow. You examine thoroughly, watch carefully, and keep meticulous notes of what you see.
Yes, sir.
And make sure that you record neither more nor less than you observe.
But when you've recorded the symptoms, sir, what about treatments?
It's very simple. My advice to you, in fact, to any student, is to interfere as little as possible with nature. She is a remarkable healer, young Thomas. You will find that she can work miracles, and often does, if she is given the opportunity.
Isn't there anything the doctor can do?
Well, good, tried remedies are few. No, as long as you are with me, you will use only quinine for the fever, mercury for the pox, give iron to those who are pale and losing blood, and opium to ease pain and restlessness. Otherwise, you will allow your patients to rest, see that they have good, nourishing food, and ease their discomfort rather than add to it, as some of my brother physicians seem to delight in doing.
Thomas Sydenham was truly an outstanding man of medicine, when you consider the age in which he lived. A time when a man who'd suffered the torments of a stomach operation could be bled 4 times in the following 24 hours. As I said, Thomas Sydenham was considered most unusual, but he passed his teaching on to his 2 students. Time passed, and Sloane and Dover began to treat their own cases and make their own discoveries.
I was reading a medical treatise the other day from France.
Yes?
Yes, and I think we may have another cure we can add to our list.
Oh, what's that?
It was used on the Dauphin. It's called ipecacuanha. It comes from South America.
You're going to try it?
I already have.
Without permission?
Well, I wanted to see what would happen, if it was really any use.
What is all this? If what is of any use?
Thomas has been experimenting.
Really? On his own patients or mine?
Mine.
Oh, good. Well, what have you been trying?
I read about a new medicine. Apparently they tried it in France. It cured the Dauphin.
So everyone thinks it's a miracle and they begin using it for everything.
How did you guess?
Well, I know the pattern. Well, what did you use it for?
In the paper, it said that a certain man, Helvetius, had administered it to cure the flux. One of my patients was dying of it, so I tried the medicine.
It worked?
Yes.
And you've used it only the once?
No, several times. And I've discovered something else.
Oh, what's that?
It works better if it's mixed with opium. The ipecacuanha seems to help the stomach movements, and the opium soothes the patient. It's really remarkable.
Good. Carry on with the experiments. Take careful note and make sure that your doses are exact. You may have found something worthwhile. But, Thomas...
Yes, sir?
Please don't imagine that you found a cure-all. Believe me, there is not and never will be any such thing.
Eventually, Thomas Dover and Hans Sloane had learned all that Sydenham had to teach. Thomas Dover set up practice in Bristol, where he made a fortune treating the sailors with mercury. Hans Sloane remained in London, where he too found fame and fortune. In fact, as Sir Hans Sloane, he prepared the London Pharmacopoeia. Among the entries, along with spider's web, virgin's milk, and moss from human skulls, all of which are listed as approved treatments, there's an item, Dover's powder. This is given as 10% ipecacuanha, 10% opium, and a filler of sulfate of potassium. So Thomas Dover had become famous as well as rich. He was settling into a comfortable and prosperous middle age when quite suddenly he felt the need for excitement and adventure. At this time, Bristol was a bustling seaport, filled to the brim with honest merchantmen and not quite so honest privateers. One of the most famous of these was Captain Woods Rogers.
Dr. Dover?
That's correct.
You wanted to see me?
If you're Captain Woods Rogers, yes.
That's me.
Good, good. Sit down. A glass of brandy?
Yeah, thank you.
There you are. Now, I understand your line of business is profitable.
Profitable and legal these days. I've got a license from the king. Saves unpleasantness. The chance of having your neck stretched in execution dock.
But to put it bluntly, you're a licensed pirate.
Well, we only attacked the Spanish and the French, so it's all right.
Yes, of course. Now, seriously, I have some money, and so have some of my friends.
Would the Bishop of Bristol be one of them?
You're very well informed.
I keep my ears open.
Yes, well, these friends and I have got together, and we'd like to finance an expedition.
Yeah, it occurred to me you might. How many ships?
2 frigates.
Well, now, by a strange coincidence, there are 2 suitable vessels available at this very minute.
Then you're interested?
Yes.
Well, you buy the ships. Fit them up with everything you think you'll need for the voyage.
How long?
I beg your pardon?
How long are you counting on us being out?
As long as you need to make us all rich.
Probably a couple of years. Depends what we find, of course. You got that much to spare?
As much as you need, and more. There is one other thing. I want to go with you.
Well, that's not usual.
I know, but I'm tired of sitting here in Bristol. I want to get out, see something of the world, have some excitement and adventure.
You'll get that all right with me.
Then you'll take me as ship's doctor?
No.
But...
if you have money in the venture, I'd rather take you as second captain.
So it was that the amazing Dr. Dover left his comfortable life behind and set out to be a buccaneer. Dr. Dover had 2 frigates, one named the Duke and the other the Duchess. At that time, the main hunting ground for privateers was off the mainland of America, and it was there that the Duke and the Duchess headed. One day, they were watering near an Indian village on the coast of Mexico when they learned that a small Spanish treasure ship was lying at Vera Cruz and was due to sail for home at any time. The Duke immediately put to sea with the aim of intercepting the Spanish ship. On a grey morning, 5 days later, she came up over the horizon, a brig carrying 18 guns.
Here they come. At this moment, I always wish I had led a better life.
most of the shot went high, right over the top.
Yes, I told you we were well within range.
Aren't you going to return their fire?
Yes, in a minute. We'll take our time. We got 20 minutes before they can reload those guns.
What about the guns on the other side? She can turn and fire those.
That clumsy creature. Turn? We'll be round in a quarter of the time. Open the gun ports, men! We shall now come down on her defenseless side. Ready to fire! Stand by! Fire!
Right amidships. You got them right in the middle.
Aye, now we'll swing round and come back with our other guns to bear.
What's happening?
Where?
On the deck, look. The men are all coming up. Do you think she's going to blow up?
I hope not. At this range, we could go too.
No, I don't think it's that. They'd be jumping into the water if they thought she was going up. Oh, they seem to be holding a meeting. The officers are shouting.
Great ones for talking, the Spanish.
There seems to be quite an argument going on.
I think we should use the other broadside just to help them make up their minds.
No, wait. I think there's a mutiny going on over there. Just look that they're waving white cloths, and the colors are being lowered.
What the devil's it all about?
Shall we lower a boat, Captain?
No, I don't trust them. Could be a trick. Take us within hailing distance and ask them what's going on.
Aye, sir.
I've never seen anything like it. It's hardly touched, and yet they seem to want to surrender.
Well, it looks like we've got our first treasure ship.
Yeah, it was almost too easy. Well, man, what was it?
Runaway gun, sir. One of our shots went through a gun port and probably running around down below there like a mad monkey in a cage. They want to know if we can help their wounded.
Yes, of course. Lower a boat. I'll go over.
Oh, I don't think you should.
We've got a whole treasure ship unharmed. I think I owe them any help we can give.
Dr. Dover found the gun deck a shambles. 2 men were beyond aid. Another lay helpless with a leg crushed. He seemed almost indifferent to his injury, dazed and uncaring. As the ship tossed on that choppy sea, the buccaneer doctor set briskly to work and removed the leg, while the man lay making no movement or protest. During the next 6 months, they sailed up and down the American coast. They attacked Spanish and French ships and land settlements, and began to amass the fortune upon which they'd set their hearts. Then came feared and dreaded signs. Scurvy.
Captain Rogers, we are going to have to put ashore. We must have fresh food.
Well, you know quite well we can't. This is all enemy territory.
Your men are sick, Captain.
It's only the scurvy. It's quite normal on a long voyage.
It may be normal to you, but I won't allow it to go unchecked on a ship of mine. Do you realize that we have 3 men dead, and most of the others are affected in one way or another? They've no spirit. They sit and shiver. The slightest thing set them in a state of terror. You'll never fight the Spanish with this lot.
Oh, what do you suggest?
I seem to remember from the chart that there are some uninhabited islands near here. I think we should put in at the next one we see what we can find in the way of fresh meat or fruit.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. We should come abreast of Juan Fernandez tomorrow afternoon.
Uninhabited?
Well, according to the charts.
Good. We'll put ashore.
It was late afternoon on January 21st when the 2 ships reached the island and dropped anchor.
Very well, Captain. Here we are. Let's lower a boat and go ashore.
It's getting late. It'll be quite dark by the time we get the boat down. Now, I think we should wait till morning.
You said it was uninhabited. What danger can there possibly be? Why not go now?
Captain, sir, look up on the hill there.
Where?
Halfway up, in that clearing.
Well, what is it?
A fire.
You said the island was uninhabited.
Yeah. It's probably pirates. Well, that settles it. We don't land.
Perhaps not tonight, but I intend to land in the morning.
And I say we up anchor and go now.
Captain Rogers, I'm perfectly prepared to take your orders as far as sailing and fighting are concerned. But I would remind you of 2 things. First, I'm a doctor. And second, these ships belong to me. As far as the health of the men goes, I intend to give the orders. And I say that we go ashore tomorrow. That is, if you don't want a ghost crew in a few weeks' time.
Very well. You insist. On your own head, be it.
Don't worry, Captain. If I'm killed, I won't hold you responsible.
Next morning, Captain Rogers took the frigates in as close to shore as he dared. Dr. Dover called for volunteers to row the pinnace, and soon they were headed for the sandy beach of the island.
Well, it all looks peaceful enough.
Wonder what made that fire last night.
Perhaps it was a natural fire of some kind. I certainly don't see any sign of pirates or Spaniards.
Whoa. We're ashore, sir. Can I give you a hand out?
Thank you. A beautiful place, isn't it?
Look, sir. There. Coming out of the trees.
What the devil is it?
It runs like a man, but it looks almost like a goat. It couldn't be the devil, could it, sir?
Oh, nonsense.
Oh,
it's a man.
But his clothes, sir. Look at his clothes. They look like fur.
They are, don't you see? Goat skin.
Help me.
It almost sounds like English. Don't worry, we'll help you. You're all right.
Must have been shipwrecked.
Take me away. Do not leave. Take me, please help.
Now, don't worry. We'll look after you. How long have you been here?
Long.
When were you wrecked?
Not wrecked. Left.
It's all right. You're found. We won't leave you. When were you left here? What year?
For 5.
And he's been here for 5 years. Poor devil. Wonder why they left him.
What's your name? Your
name? Alexander Selkirk.
Dr. Dover collected fresh fruit and killed some goats for meat, and carried them back to the ship together with his strange survivor. At first, Alexander Selkirk found difficulty in expressing himself after his 5 years of isolation. But soon his speech grew more fluent, and he was able to tell of his ordeal.
I sailed with Captain Stradling. I was his navigator.
That devil.
Yes, I knew he had a reputation for ill-treating his men, but I thought I could handle him.
The promise of a fortune in gold will take most men a long way.
It was the only thing that kept the men from mutiny. But the ship was a hulk, not fit to sail. When we reached this island, I tried to get the men to refuse to sail any further, but they wouldn't listen to me. Captain Stradling heard about my talk to the men, and he said, "If you want to stay, you shall." He put me in a long boat and had me rowed to shore. That was 5 years ago.
How did you keep from going mad?
Oh, I thought about my home in Scotland, of my family in Largs. That's a little fishing village in Fife.
How did you live?
At first, I ate shellfish and turtles when I could catch them. I couldn't accept what had happened, you see. So I sat there on the beach, waiting for them to come back. I was so full of despair that I couldn't even think. They had left me a few things, a Bible and a knife and gun. At length, for want of anything better to do, I opened the Bible and began to read. That was the turning point. Through that Bible, I came to terms with my fate. I learned that I mustn't live from day to day dreaming of rescue. I must accept what had happened and make the best of it. I built 2 huts. I learnt to hunt the wild goats. I cooked the meat and used the skins for clothes.
But companionship, what about that?
Oh, at first I thought I would die of loneliness. But then I accepted that too. There are hundreds of wild cats on that island. I fed them and they grew tame. They would sleep on my bed, and I would read to them from the Bible and even sing hymns to them.
And you saw no humans in all that time?
One party of Spaniards. I hid from them. Tell me what happened to Captain Stradling.
His ship went aground in Spanish Columbia. He's a prisoner in Spain.
Oh, I'm sorry. At one time I would have been glad and hoped he suffered. Now I don't hate him anymore. I've found peace on my island.
But you don't want to stay here?
Oh, no, not now that rescue has been offered.
Well, you're welcome to join us. We've lost 3 men with scurvy.
Aye. How'd you like to be second mate on the Duke?
Ah, thank you, sir. I'd be obliged. You know, sir, this is almost like returning from the dead.
So, for the next 2 years, Alexander Selkirk sailed with Captain Woodes Rogers and Dr. Dover. During that time, the privateers amassed a small fortune. And when the crew shares and expenses had been paid, they found there was left over £170,000, most of this money going to Dr. Dover. But Selkirk found it difficult to adapt after his long period of isolation, and apparently often regretted leaving Juan Fernandez with its tranquility and solitude. He died of yellow fever during an expedition to the Gold Coast and was buried at sea. He might very easily have been forgotten but for one thing. His story came to the ears of the writer Daniel Defoe. The author was 58 years old and plagued with ill health and debt when he wrote his immortal Robinson Crusoe. Yet the book, a cunning mixture of fact and fiction, is an inspiring example of a man's survival through his own ingenuity and faith. As for Dr. Dover, well, his famous powders remained for many years a remedy for stomach troubles. One strange fact was that the alkaloid emetine was isolated from ipecacuanha in 1817, but it wasn't until 100 years later that it was found to be especially effective against amoebic dysentery. So the amazing Dr. Dover was on the right lines all the time.
Medical File, the documented story of the men and women who in hospitals, research centers, and lonely surgeries guard our lives. Listen again next week for another true story from Medical File. This is a true story taken from an actual medical file. Medical File. Factual stories of the men and women whose vigilance guards our lives. A reconstruction of clinical case histories, step by step with the doctors who were there. Medical File.
To introduce our story this evening, I'd like you to meet a colleague of mine, Dr. Walter Simon.
Thank you, Melvin. The word drug, in non-technical language, has come to suggest a narcotic or habit-forming substance. But in the technical sense, the word has a much wider meaning. A drug is anything which is taken medicinally to help recovery from sickness, or relieve symptoms, or to modify any natural process in the body. So, in the strict sense of the word, even vitamin pills could be classed as drugs. Today we take such things for granted, aspirin, for example. But most of the drugs we dose ourselves with each day are of relatively recent origin. As medical knowledge increased during the 19th century particularly, many new compounds and derivatives were discovered or developed. Some of them proved to be of great benefit to humankind. Some were useless, some were dangerous. Others, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, appeared to be benign or even beneficial, but were to prove enemies of society. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about one such substance in a story I've called The Friendly Enemy. It is the year 1868 in a small town in Moravia, which was then part of the Austrian Empire. A 12-year-old boy, who was to become one of the most famous men in the world, walks beside his father along the street.
It is a lovely day, is it not, Sigmund?
Yes, Father. Father, they're laughing at us.
Take no notice, my boy. They will stop when they see we don't care.
But I do care, Father. Why do they do it?
I suppose because they do not know any better.
It's off the pavement, you two! Pavement's for people, not pigs! You stop that!
Sigmund, be quiet, be quiet.
Yes, be quiet, Sigmund. Jews must be quiet.
Stop it, Father. Make them stop.
Be a good boy, Sigmund. Daddy says so.
No, give my father's hat back. You give my father's hat back.
Give it back, give it back!
There you are. Pick it up yourself.
Out of the gutter!
It's where you belong.
Father, don't pick it up.
It is my hat, son. I wish to have it back.
Could you, Father? Could you? To bend down and pick it up from the gutter. Not say a word.
My son, it is not important. It's nothing to worry about. There are more important things in life. My son, listen to me. We are not a strong people, not strong enough to fight. We must bend with the wind. That is our strength.
No, you're wrong. That way people don't respect you. They just spit on you. One day, I'll do something about it. Stop all this persecution.
And how will you do that, Sigmund?
I shall become a great soldier. Or a prime minister. I shall make people respect us. If they don't, I shall kill them.
Sigmund, you sound as bad as they are. My son, you know, there are other ways to make people respect you. Better ways than killing. But anyway, you will not be able to go into politics or join the army. These things are not allowed for you.
Because I'm a Jew.
Yes, my son. But there are other ways. There is business, the law, or medicine.
Sigmund Freud almost grudgingly chose a career in the field of medicine. He was a brilliant student and did well at the University of Vienna, but his heart was not in his work. He did not want to be a general practitioner, neither did normal hospital work attract him. Gradually, his interest turned to the study of the workings of the human mind. But this field was limited in Vienna. He soon realized that he would have to go elsewhere to learn more about his chosen subject. Then, one of those strange chances occurred by which fate suddenly tangles even the best-laid plans of men. Sigmund arrived home one day to find a visitor there. She was 20 years old. Her name was Martha Bernays. Freud fell immediately and completely in love. During the following days, he spent all the money he could lay hands on to send her flowers, cards, and letters. To his surprise, he found that Martha returned his love, and on the 10th of June, 1882, he kissed her for the first time. Next day, he went to call on her mother.
My name is Sigmund Freud.
Yes. Martha has spoken of you. In fact, she recently has done little else. What do you want?
I wish to be considered as a husband for your daughter.
But you hardly know each other. You've only just met.
I agree, but we do know that we love each other.
Do you indeed? And have you spoken to my daughter of marriage?
Well, not exactly, but I think, that is, I believe she would consider it.
Mr. Freud, I am a widow.
Yes, your daughter has told me. I'm sorry.
And having no husband, it is my duty to guard my daughter's interests.
Yes, of course.
Then I must say that I find you totally unacceptable as a son-in-law. But you have no money, no prospects. And what is worse, you seem to be totally lacking in ambition.
I'll change. I can. I will.
How?
I'll get a job.
Where?
At the General Hospital. I'll work there. I'll apply tomorrow. You'll see. I'll do something really great. I'll make you respect me. I'll make the world respect me.
So, Sigmund Freud gave up his hopes of further study and took a position at the General Hospital in Vienna. However, this action does not seem to have placated Martha's mother, for she immediately sent her daughter to stay with relatives in Wandsbek near Hamburg. She believed that this would put paid to the undesirable suitor. To Freud, the separation was agony. He borrowed money to visit Martha secretly. When she discovered what was going on, Madame Bernays moved to Hamburg so that she could keep a closer watch on her daughter. By the spring of 1884, Freud was in despair. He was suffering from severe depression and violent stomach upsets. He believed quite sincerely that he would die unless he could see and be with his beloved Martha. He confided in a friend.
So, what are you going to do about it?
I don't know. That woman hates me. She thinks I'm not good enough for her daughter. Well, I suppose she's right. I'm not. Not at all.
Oh, come on, pull yourself together.
There is just one thing. Don't laugh. Please, don't laugh.
I won't.
Well, you see, I thought that if I could become famous, she might change her mind.
Famous?
Yes. Prove that I'm somebody. Make her realize that I'm, well, worth something.
But you are. You're the most brilliant student here at the hospital.
Oh, none of that means anything. I've got to do something that'll get my name into the medical journals, maybe even into the newspapers. She'd believe that.
I see.
No, you don't. Not really. I've got to make some kind of scientific discovery, something new and important. Then I'm sure she'll let me marry Martha.
Yes, I suppose you're right. But why are you telling me all this?
Because I want you to help me. You're a chemist.
Yes?
Well, I want you to get me some cocaine.
Cocaine?
Yeah, you know what it is.
I've heard of it, but...
Well, listen. I was reading an article the other day. It was written by a German doctor. He'd given cocaine to soldiers while they were on maneuvers. He said that it seemed to improve their marching performances. Now, I hadn't heard of it before, but I've been thinking about that article. And I've been wondering whether it might not help cure people with mental illnesses. People suffering from acute depression. I suppose it might be helpful. Don't you see, this might be just the very thing I need. Can't you see the headlines? Young doctor discovers miracle drug.
Yes, but...
Can you get me some cocaine?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
Good. I want a gram. It must be pure. And I want it today.
Freud obtained his cocaine, and he started at once experimenting on himself. He found that the drug did have remarkable effects on his mental state. His depression vanished. He developed abounding confidence in himself. One strange thing he did notice was that when he took the drug by mouth, it seemed to make his mouth numb. A short time later, he happened to share a table at the local cafe one morning with a Dr. Kohler, who also works at the General Hospital in the ophthalmic department.
Can I pour you some coffee, Dr. Kohler?
No, thank you.
Is something wrong?
I've got the most wretched toothache. Anything hot makes it worse.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is miserable.
I didn't get a wink of sleep last night, and now it's throbbing so much I can't think. I've got a lecture in 10 minutes.
Isn't there something you could take?
Oh, I tried everything. Nothing seems to...
Wait a minute. I think I've got something that might deaden it a bit. Here, try some of this.
What is it?
Oh, just try it. Put a drop or two onto the gum. Yeah, it should help. I don't know whether it will kill the pain completely, but it should help.
It is. It's easing it already. What is it? What is that?
It's called cocaine. It comes from a South American plant. Apparently the first specimens were brought back by a ship's doctor about 20 years ago. He gave the leaves, coca they were called, to the German chemist Wohler. And Wohler's pupil, Niemann, managed to extract the effective compound and called it cocaine.
Cocaine? But what are you doing with it in your pocket?
I'm working on it. I read about some experiments in Germany and decided to try some of my own.
Oh, how are they going?
Quite well. I think it's going to prove most valuable for overcoming depression and as a cure for mental illness. Why don't you come along and see for yourself?
All right. What about that numbing effect?
Oh, that's just a sideline. It's not of any scientific interest.
Kohler and Freud began to experiment together. For several weeks, they both took cocaine and made notes of the effects. In July 1884, Freud published a paper in a scientific journal. The response was disappointing. But for once, Freud was too happy to care. It was time for his summer holiday, and he was going to spend it with Martha. On the 1st of September, he boarded the train for Hamburg, filled with the most joyous anticipation. Meanwhile, Dr. Kohler had been doing some serious thinking. Unlike Freud, Kohler practiced surgery. He felt sure that this new drug had possibilities as a local anesthetic, but up to now he hadn't had enough faith to try. Now that he was on his own, he made up his mind. He would put his theory to the test. He went to call on a certain Dr. Gartner, who was a laboratory assistant.
Come in. Kohler. Oh, it's a long time since you've been to visit me.
Yes, I'm afraid it is. Oh.
Sit down. Now, what can I do for you?
Oh, I'm sorry, is it so obvious?
Oh, the sudden visit, the preoccupied manner. Yes, it's obvious. Oh, never mind. Coffee.
Thank you. Funny. You know, that's how it started.
What?
One day I had such bad toothache, I couldn't drink hot coffee.
Oh, really? And what happened?
Sigmund Freud offered me some medicine for my toothache.
I see. Sugar?
Oh, thank you.
And it worked, this medicine?
It worked.
Oh, and now what?
Well, I've been thinking, I perform many eye operations. They're difficult under general anesthetic and impossible or almost impossible without an anesthetic. So?
So?
Well, I've been wondering whether this drug might not provide a local anesthetic to stop the pain in that one area.
What is this drug?
Cocaine.
Ah.
I got some with me. I was wondering whether you would help me with an experiment.
What had you in mind?
Well, I see you've got some frogs here. Couldn't we try it on one of them? Put some cocaine in its eye, see if it works. That's all.
All right. Now, Let's clear this bench.
Right.
You fetch one of the frogs.
Oh, from here?
Yes, any one of those will do. And hold him tight. They're inclined to make sudden leaps. That's it. Put him down here.
Yeah, now you hold him. I'll get out the cocaine.
How will we know his eyes anesthetized?
Well, I'll use his probe. If he blinks and pulls away, we'll know we have failed.
All right.
Hold him still. I just want to put a drop in his left eye. Now, we'll leave the other one untouched as a control. Right. One drop.
How long does it take to work?
Well, the first signs start almost immediately, but it's about a minute before the full effect is felt.
His eye doesn't look any different. No, wait a minute. The pupil seems to be growing larger. Yes. Look, there's a definite difference.
Right. Now let's try. I'll move the sharp probe in close.
And eye doesn't blink. He doesn't even try to move his head away.
Closer. Now I'm actually touching the cornea.
Absolutely no reaction. Try the other eye.
All right, now hold him. Hold.
All right. Hold on. Well, that was definite enough. He blinked and pulled away as soon as you came anywhere near the right eye. Try the left again.
There. No movement. None whatsoever.
Nothing.
You realize what this means? It just might be possible to operate on cataracts without giving a general anesthetic.
During the following days, Koller experimented on frogs, then rabbits, and then dogs. Lastly, he tried the drug on himself. His friend Gartner treated his eye with cocaine and then subjected it to probings. When he himself felt nothing, his last doubts were removed. He went to the eye clinic and persuaded one of his patients to submit to an experiment. Once again, he achieved complete anesthesia. The same patient then agreed to undergo a cataract operation under local anesthetic. Koller performed the operation in secret, and it was a complete success. A leading ophthalmic surgeon from Italy was visiting Vienna at the time. Koller invited him to watch the next operation.
Well, Dr. Beta, you see what I can do? What do you think?
It is amazing. It's truly amazing.
Yes. But now I'm afraid that someone might publish a paper before I can and steal the limelight.
Well, the Congress of Ophthalmologists is due to begin in Heidelberg in 4 days. I am on my way there now. Why not announce your work there? It will have worldwide publicity.
I can't. Look, I know no one will give me a chance to speak, not at such short notice.
I am due to speak.
Yes. No, I wondered if perhaps you might...
You want me to announce your discovery?
Yes. Yes, you could read my paper and perhaps repeat the experiments you see me do here. But then that would mean not giving your paper, and that's too much to ask.
Oh, no. In this case, it's not too much. Your discovery is of worldwide importance. I will do what you ask. I will tell the world about your work with cocaine.
Koller remained in Vienna in almost unbearable suspense. The days passed, and then came the announcement.
A Viennese eye doctor named Karl Koller has made known his discovery that the human eye can be rendered insensitive to pain by a few drops of cocaine solution. To prove his theory, several operations for cataract were performed with cocaine in the presence of the Ophthalmological Congress in Heidelberg.
Meanwhile, Freud was enjoying a deliriously happy holiday in Hamburg. He spent all his time with Martha, and even met her mother, who seemed at length to have become resigned to having Freud for a son-in-law. Freud returned to Vienna early in October, determined to continue his experiments with cocaine, win fame, and marry Martha.
Hello, Sigrand. You had a good holiday?
Yes, wonderful. But what's this I hear about you using cocaine for eye operations?
Yes, I decided to try it whilst you were away. And it works.
Well, we always knew that it numbed the mucous membrane.
Yes, but you've no idea what this means. We can perform all kinds of eye surgery now that we couldn't before.
Oh, yes, maybe, but I still think that that's a sideline.
Sideline? So Grace's new discovery, anesthesia, for years, and you call it a sideline?
Well, it's just that I think cocaine has so much else to offer. In the field of mental illness. That's where its future lies.
Sigmund Freud worked on, but he became increasingly depressed. It seemed that his discovery was slipping away from him. Other people had taken it up, and his name was hardly mentioned. He tried cocaine on all kinds of mental and nervous diseases, and he began taking larger doses himself to ward off his depression. Today, it seems a miracle that he did not become an addict. Perhaps it was that his interest in his work was too strong. In any event, he was forced at last to admit that his idea was a failure, and he left Vienna for Paris, where he studied under the eminent neurologist, Dr. Jean-Martin Charcot. In September of the following year, 1886, he married his beloved Martha Bernays and devoted the rest of his life to the study and treatment of mental disorder, becoming the leader and best-known figure in the world in the new field of psychoanalysis. Meanwhile, other men took up and advanced the use of cocaine. They removed it from the restricted field of ophthalmology and applied it to all parts of the human body. Between the years 1886 and 1888, there was a worldwide use of cocaine as a local anesthetic and a general enthusiasm for the drug, especially among young surgeons. New techniques were developed. The drug seemed set for a bright future. But the shadows were lurking and growing larger.
Dr. Koller, have you seen this report?
Which one?
Here, on cocaine. In this technical journal here.
Oh, what does it say?
That cocaine is dangerous. Apparently there have been cases of addiction. Listen. From America, it is reported that cocaine has produced nothing but misfortune for Dr. Halstead, several of his friends, and some of his students. When accounts of Dr. Kohler's discoveries were received in New York, Halstead became concerned with extending local anesthesia to other parts of the body, besides the eye. He experimented on himself and friends and students. He had remarkable success with a new method he discovered, but then suffered a breakdown. They go on to quote a number of other cases of addiction.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be used carefully. It does have strong psychological effects.
Yeah, but that's not all. This article says it can be dangerous to inject.
Well, I don't inject it. I drop it into the eye.
It says here that there have been a number of sudden deaths after cocaine injections, even for minor dental operations. It is suggested that doctors refrain from using the drug for the time being until further tests can be carried out. Pity. It looks as though your cocaine is going to prove a failure after all.
So, finally, the enemy had been discovered beneath the friendly exterior. In medical practice, cocaine proved too dangerous for injection, since it is an intense stimulant of the central nervous system. In large doses, it causes acute paranoia, and in many cases a sudden, rapid, and fatal collapse. So the wolf was now in full view. But there is another side to the coin. Cocaine did show surgeons the benefits of local anesthetics in certain types of surgery, and they continued to experiment carefully with it until 1905. In that year came the discovery that established a permanent and valid basis for all forms of local anesthesia. This was the discovery by the German chemist Einhorn of a relatively safe derivative of the drug, which was called Novocaine. One of the first surgeons to try the new drug was August Beer, who for years had been experimenting with cocaine as a spinal anesthetic. Now, using Novocaine, he found that it worked like magic. It had virtually no toxic effects. With its advent, spinal anesthesia was established overnight as one of the most valuable techniques in the field of surgery. With the appearance of Novocaine, many operations became feasible which before had been ruled out because of the perils of a general anesthetic, and new vistas were opened for surgical exploration.
Medical File, the documented story of the men and women who in hospitals, research centers, and lonely surgeries guard our lives. Listen again next week for another true story from Medical File. This is a true story taken from an actual medical file.
On a trip to Paris 2 or 3 months ago, I met, for the first time in more than 30 years, an old friend of mine, a doctor with whom I studied in London at the outset of our careers. During the course of a very pleasant evening, he talked about Wales, and I realized I knew nothing at all about his early years in the medical profession. My story tonight, then, took place in the late 20s, when Dr. Andrew Everett had only just qualified, and I've called it the honeymoon.
Medical File. Factual stories of the men and women whose vigilance guards our lives. A reconstruction of clinical case histories, step by step with the doctors who were there. Medical File.
Die goeie ou dae van Springbok Radio is terug. 20 onverkrygbare liedjies nou op 1 CD. Met al jou gunstelinge: Virginia Lee, Cora Marie, Anton Goosen, Sonja Herold, Cupido en vele meer. Herleef Springbok Radio, Afrikaanse treffers.
Die volgende klassieke advertensie van Springbok Radio se verlede kom met die vergunning van die Springbok Radio Bewaringsvereniging van Suid-Afrika.
Gee hom 'n delfin, 'n Switserse delfin, dis uiters betroubaar.
Gee haar 'n delfin, deskundig gemaak, so smaakvol en keurig vir haar.
Kies 'n delfin nou, die tuberkulosie by die juwelier.
Want slegs 'n juwelier mag 'n delfin verkoop.
Kies 'n delfin nog vandag.
Andrew didn't exactly pass out of medical school with flying colors, but he got his ticket, as they used to say, and didn't have to wait long for an appointment. He celebrated by marrying the girl who'd been his childhood sweetheart, and together they left London for Aberfilly, a Welsh coal mining town. The appointment was the best of the two he'd been offered. At least, the remuneration was far superior. He'd been appointed medical officer to Aberfilly Colliery. A free house was available. In fact, Andrew and May, his new wife, didn't have time for a honeymoon at all. They were married on a Saturday morning in March, and after a brief reception, found themselves on a train bound for North Wales via Oxford and Shropshire. With the Berwyn Mountains looming in the distance and the rain pouring down, both of them fought off depression and the almost overriding temptation to get off the train at any small station along the way, sleep the night in the waiting room, and return to warm, friendly London the next morning. But they didn't. And at 8 o'clock that night, they arrived in Aberfilly, were shown their house, and with the rain still pelting down, prepared for their first night together as man and wife.
You're sure you're not hungry?
No, Andy, I'm not hungry.
Oh. Well, there it stands. One brand new doctor's bag. Better get some of the shine off it, I suppose, otherwise they'll never have any faith at all in me.
You're going to be a wonderful doctor, I know you are. He was quite a nice man, the little man who met us, wasn't he?
Fitzpatrick? Yes, he's very nice. Funny name for a Welshman.
Yes, I expect his father was Irish.
That's about it, I think. Well, gosh, it's cold. It's nearly, 10. We'll tidy things up properly in the morning.
Yes, I'll make it really nice in the morning. The curtains are pretty.
That's something, I suppose. You're shivering.
No, I'm...
I love you.
I love you, too.
It won't always be like this.
Like what?
Raining and cold and awful like this. And, well, one day you'll see. We'll have a house of our own, and I'll have a decent practice.
None of that matters. As long as... well, as we're together.
You really are the loveliest, darlingest girl in the whole wide world. And
Andy?
I mean, this morning when I felt you beside me at the altar, I practiced...
Andy?
Yes?
I'd like to go to bed.
They say wet whales, don't they? If there's much of this, I'll be run off my feet. Pneumonia, pleurisy, coughs, colds, arthritis, neuralgia.
Andy?
Yes, my dearest one?
Can I tell you something that might shock you?
Nothing you say could ever shock me. Anything you say would only make me love you even... My love, you're cold. Oh, blast this heathen place. Blast Albufeille. Blast the cold heat.
Andrew, darling, will you please stop blasting things right, left, and center and kindly help me with my dress?
Dress? It's a cold night. That rain, honest. Oh, May. May, my love, my divine. Who in the name of all that's holy can that be?
Maybe if you open the door, Dr. Everett, you...
Doctor, man, are you there?
Oh, no. Oh.
Yes?
Oh, what is it?
Who are you, Dr. Everett?
Yes. What do you want?
Doctor, for the mine?
Well, you're soaking wet. Come in. What do you want?
No time, Doctor. Would you mind getting into your waterproof? You're wanted at the mine.
Wanted at the...
But we've just got... I'm sorry like to have fetched you, Dr. Bach. You see, you know, only just arriving and that, but you're wanted, you see, at the pit. You're wanted, you're needed, you know.
I'll be 2 minutes.
You're wanted at the pit. And unbeknown to any but Dr. Everett himself, the nightmare he'd feared was about to begin. You see, Andrew Everett all his life had been afraid, desperately afraid, of being underground. Even underground railways made him feel sick. He'd taken the job against all his own better counsellings. But you see, the pay, whilst not terrific, not as much as a hard-working doctor might expect from a reasonable practice, was better than the other choice, and he badly wanted to make a success for his wife. What an unusual way to spend a honeymoon.
Hey, Dr. Bach, 30 years. I began as a pony boy, you see. Now I'm shot firer.
Goes down fast, doesn't it?
Sure, you see how badly the man's been injured.
How far is this?
900 feet, Dr. Bach. Not so far, really.
Oh.
Here we are, then. Sway, Doctor. Mind your head, man.
Doctor?
Yes, hello?
Reese Williams, we haven't met. We would have done, but you were late, you see. Will you follow me this way?
Yes, but you see, mister, I was only married this morning and...
It doesn't matter.
The place is 2 miles from the shop, Doctor. I hope you're in training. It takes us 40 minutes or so to reach it.
Yes.
Watch your step, Doctor, man. You mustn't get run down. Hold your bag, Doctor.
No, that's all right, really.
Come on, Doctor.
Much farther is it? Where do we go now? We can't get past here because...
All right, on your hands and knees now, Doctor. The only way. Come on. Down you go.
Great Scott of May, what have I done? Oh!
Ah, you see, that happens, Doctor, when you're not looking where you're going.
Where's all this water come from?
Oh, not to worry, Doctor, man. Aberfilly's always been a wet pit.
A wet pit, I see. Wet pit. This is where men work. Toiling for long 8-hour shifts. Hacking, hewing, day after day through boyhood, manhood. Gods. I know one thing. I'll never put another lump of coal on the fire without considering the manner by which it was obtained.
We'll have to ask you to hurry, Doctor. Please, would you mind?
Yes,
What are you doing down there, Doctor?
What does it look like? I slipped and fell.
Here, Dr. Bach, here. It's all right, boyos. The doctor's here. The London man arrived. As expected. A bit late. But he can't be helped, can he? Over here, Doctor. Jamie, a light man. Please take a light.
This is Brandon Pritchard.
Yes. Doctor, he's in some pain, you know.
I see.
Will you tell what happened, Johnny? Johnny?
He can't move, you see, Doctor. We don't shift him, you see. Windy has been solid. Shot firing we was to bring the coal out like the blast undercut, you see. Brought down all the broken stuff. It was that caught Brandon here.
All right.
His leg.
Okay.
And you see, Doctor, it's any moment now, and the whole roof might cave in like that's the trouble. We ought to get him out. Quick like, Doctor.
All right. Let me have a look at him. Heaven help me.
Andrew found himself trembling. He observed the man called Johnny's glance at the shelf of rock above them. He noted how insecure it looked. And then he looked at his patient again, and for a moment was unable to move except for the violent trembling that overtook him. The trapped miner's left leg was crushed, mutilated almost beyond recognition. The man was so wedged he couldn't be moved an inch. The solution? An immediate amputation below the knee.
What do you think, Doctor?
We'll get him out of it.
It's funny, you know. Tomorrow's the 29th. According to the Reverend Samuel Evans, in the year 3974 BC, exactly, you know, Cain killed Abel. I don't know how we can be so accurate.
What can we do, Dr. Bach? Who's going to come down?
Well, let me just unpack my bag. I'll never make a surgeon. They told me that often enough.
Mr. Everett, I advise you not to think of surgery. The branches of medicine in which you might prove to be very useful, skillfully active, are many indeed, but you will never make a surgeon. You will never make a surgeon. A surgeon. A surgeon. A surgeon.
Hold that.
I don't.
And you, please.
Doctor.
Those scissors. As soon as I ask.
Right away.
Now then. All right, now then. I'll soon let you out of here.
Okay, Brandon. Hey, the doctor's here, man. Nothing to worry about, man. It's going to be all right. What?
Mr. Pritchard, can you hear me?
Aye.
Did it hit you anywhere else? Chest, shoulders?
A bit.
Your head? Anywhere? The light, please. Keep it...
No.
Right. Does your left arm hurt?
Arm?
Does your...
No.
Does your right leg hurt?
No. Not too. No.
Have you pain anywhere else?
No.
Can you breathe all right?
Yes. No. Can't move, though. Can't move.
Pain in your stomach?
No.
Back?
No.
Have you ever had an operation before?
No.
Any heart trouble?
No.
There's not much time, Doctor. The room.
Any trouble ever with your kidneys?
No.
Mr. Pritchard, can you see me all right? Can you?
Looks like he's out again, Doctor.
Quick, ether. Mr. Pritchard, we'll get you out of this. Now, just breathe in and forget everything. Think of the nicest thing you can possibly think of.
Oh, Brandon, man. Think of Maggie Evans and how she was at the Christmas ball.
Johnny.
Tighten the tourniquet. Hand me those gloves. Yes, there's...
Doctor?
What's in the bottle?
Sounds like iodine.
Iodine.
Yeah, the stuff. Things like Billy Oil.
Please, dear heavens, let that stuff stay up there. Stay up there nice till we get out of here.
The following classic Springbok radio commercial comes to you with the courtesy of the Springbok Radio Preservation Society of South Africa.
Mother, you know about these things. How can I get my pots and pans to shine?
Use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Do as I did, darling. Change to Ajax. It's amazing how Ajax gets my dirtiest pots and pans sparkling bright without a scratch.
Yes, the active polishing agents in Ajax do all your toughest cleaning jobs without a scratch. And only Ajax has Chlorinex to bleach away stubborn stains from sinks, baths, and stoves.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Floats the dirt right down the drain.
Change to foaming Ajax now.
Some things in life are obvious and easy. If you have a business providing a good service or selling a product, you need to let people know. But how do you do that? Easy. Just tell them here on SpringbokRadio.com. Internet radio is about talking to people in their own homes. Your message becomes part of the sound they've chosen to listen to. To find out more about advertising on SpringbokRadio.com, contact Dave Dupria on Johannesburg 011 678 5176. Or for outside South Africa, 2711 678 5176. Or email Dave at SpringbokRadio.com.
Having swabbed the knee with the iodine, Andrew made the first incision. He worked like the very devil. He was practically lying flat, on his stomach, under the low roof of rock. He cut down to the bone, but as he reached for the saw...
Was that important, Doctor, that bottle? Damn. Hot? No. Yes. The anesthetic.
Andrew sawed quickly through the bone and started the ligatures. He put in the drainage tubes and then started to sew up the skin flaps.
For the love of... Doctor, we haven't any time left. Then, Mr. Williams, you'd better get out of it and leave it to me. If you're frightened.
Do you box, Doctor?
What?
Shut up, Williams. Leave that remark, Doctor. We'll see the two of us in the ring together within the next 24 hours.
In the ring, Mr. Williams? Yes. Oh, heaven.
Look, the roof, eh?
Thanks, Doctor. That was a nice job. I never saw all of it, you know.
Just that last bit there. Funny to say goodbye to a leg. I had it a long time. Hit many a goal with it. For Aberfilly, you know. He's been conscious and watching me.
Let's give you a hand with him, Doctor. Pull him clear now, eh? Just some more.
Careful! Careful now! This way!
That's it. Watch out. Okay, right now, this way. Quickly, men.
They got Brandon Pritchard clear, put him on the stretcher, and moved away only 50 feet when...
Hey, Doctor. I must say you did that very nicely.
Oh, thanks.
Look, I've got something for you. Here. Brandy.
Oh, no,
Come on, Doctor. Don't tell anyone else, though, eh? They'll all want some.
Look, please, I'd rather...
Oh, sorry, Doctor. Are you the kind of man who'd rather have it separated?
Well, to tell the truth...
Damn it, Doctor. Tell you what. Drink that lot, and the next lot you can have separate.
Quiet! Everybody, quiet! Come here, quiet!
2:30, did you know that? 2:30, and Brandon Pritchard will never play football again. Aye, but he'll see his grandchildren born, and can go to the back mountains next summer like he did last summer, huh?
No, man, listen.
Hey, come on.
We've only got coffee, nothing stronger, but before we go, we're going to drink a toast to a brave new doctor, the pride of Aberfilly.
Well, I ought to go home to my wife.
Doctor, man, I don't want to speak out of turn, like, but I've a feeling that our mine was not to your special liking. Am I right? Am I right in saying you wouldn't choose voluntarily to spend a Saturday down in Aberfilly mine? Some of us, you see, are born to it, man. Some of us have to get used to it.
Aye.
Some can't put up with it unless they have to. It takes a lot of will, you see, and Dr. Everett there made that will happen within him.
Aye.
Dr. Everett back. Doctor? Hey, where's our doctor gone to then? Doctor? Where's the doctor gone?
Oh, dear. Oh, well. And blood is my new bag, all right. What a way for a man to spend the first night of his honeymoon.
Andrew? Andy? Andy. Oh, Andy, darling. Oh, I'm sorry, Andy. I tried to stay awake. What time is it? Gracious, it's... Oh, Andy, you've been drinking. Oh, how could you? We've only just been married. I never thought... Oh, the first night would be like this. Oh, Andy.
Well, they always say that honeymoons are overrated, but the Everetts can't really count as typical. We had a good night out in Paris, Andrew and I. He's still married to May. You see, that night wasn't all that disastrous, and being totally sweet and understanding, she soon settled down, and together they spent 8 long years in Albufeille. He told me many other stories of the Welsh mining people, who he regards still to this day as the finest in the world. He never entirely got rid of his fear of enclosed spaces, and more particularly his hatred of the depths under the ground. But we've all got some fear, haven't we? Some secret enemy within ourselves, and these weaknesses are often strengths in the long run. At least, if you haven't thought about it before, you might appreciate a little more keenly the cost of coal. Next time you place a lump on your fire, if you're one of those lucky people who enjoy an open fire in the wintertime, you might stop and think for a moment. It isn't mined easily. Although times and conditions have changed since then, have improved, it's still to this day won from the earth with sweat and toil, and the rewards to the miners for this work are never really enough. If you think getting away with your life minus one leg is lucky, throughout the history of coal mining there have been thousands and thousands who were not so lucky. I'd like to tell you of the great Albufeille mine disaster and of the heroes it made. Andrew Everett was one of them, but that, as they say, is another story.
Medical File, the documented story of the men and women who in hospitals, research centers, and lonely surgeries guard our lives. Listen again next week for another true story from Medical File.
This is a true story, taken from an actual medical file.
Good evening. This is Melvin Hoffman, your host, bidding you welcome once again to Medical File. Tonight's story concerns a young man. A young man, rich, spoiled perhaps, but a human being who was in agony of the mind. Now let me qualify that. His case history is one that I remember vividly. And I remember the state the young man got into, the degradation of the spirit, the soul, the body, as his mental condition started to dominate his very being. Yes, tonight, a story I think will grip you, as it gripped me when it unfolded. I've called it The Lost Hours.
Bristol Myers, makers of new Vote toothpaste, take great pleasure in presenting Medical File, factual stories of the men and women whose vigilance guards our lives. A reconstruction of clinical case histories, step by step with the doctors who were there. Tonight, in Medical File, Bristol Myers presents The Lost Hours by Brian O'Shaughnessy.
I think you may feel as I do that today's world is very largely geared to the young. In so many forms of commerce, industry, anything you may care to mention, the stress is on the young. What they want, what they do or do not achieve. Perhaps this is as it should be, perhaps not. But Michael Richards was a product of today's world. A young man, callow, inexperienced, rough almost, but not without sensitivity, as you'll hear. The world should have been his oyster, but it wasn't. I first met him in very strange circumstances. Hello, Melvin Hoffman here.
Oh, Melvin, morning to you. Sorry to disturb you so early in the day.
Who's speaking? No, wait a moment. Of course, Inspector Henton. For a moment, I couldn't identify you. Heavens, it must be years since I heard from you.
2 years, to be exact.
2 years.
When I asked you to give us some advice, remember, on the forensic side.
Yes, that's right. Are you well?
Yes, working too hard. I've read some of your stuff. Nice work.
Oh, thank you, but that wasn't why you rang.
No, it wasn't. Melvin, I wonder if you'd do something for me. I know this is something of an imposition after so long, but,
Come on, out with it.
Well, I'll be frank. We've had a young man in the cells for the night, a young man called, Michael Richards.
The Michael Richards?
Exactly. I'd heard that, well, that Morton Richards' father was once a patient of yours, that you still kept in touch, that you are a friend of the family.
What's he done?
Oh, nothing serious, Melvin. Drunk and disorderly, using foul language in a public place, you know, that kind of thing. But I'd like to hand him over to you before he goes back to his father.
But why me?
You're a doctor, a good one.
Well, why should he see a doctor?
He needs help, Melvin.
Well, surely his father can give him that. I mean, I haven't seen him for such a long time. Why not since he was just about to leave high school? I mean...
Can I bring him to you?
What's up, Inspector?
I'll let you see for yourself, Melvin. Then you'll understand.
Very well. You're a cryptic as always, eh? Just bring him along, Inspector. Have you found his father?
No, not yet, Melvin. I will later.
All right, I'll be here. You haven't forgotten my address, have you? It's... And so it began. I was intrigued by the call from Inspector Hinton of the local police. Why me, I wondered. True, I knew Morton Richards and knew his wife before they divorced. But why did the son need a doctor? I was soon to find out. The door opened, in came my friend the inspector, and with him was Michael Richards. Well-dressed, a little creased up perhaps, but still presentable. A lock of hair fell over his eyes, making him look rather vulnerable. But it was his eyes that caught my attention. They were vacant, lost. Sit down, please. Michael?
No.
Please sit down. Have you eaten?
He had a meal before he left the station, Melvin.
Has the cat got your tongue, Michael?
No.
Now, Michael, I'm not quite sure what it is the inspector here wants, but he brought you to me. And knowing him, this will not have been without reason. Now, you spent the night in jail?
Yes.
Inspector, how can I help? I'm a little lost here.
Ask him what happened last night, Melvin.
Well, Michael, what did happen last night?
I don't know. That's all he'll say. I don't know. You were at a party, Michael. You were drunk. You swore at the policeman who arrested you. You tried to punch him one. That was at 10 p.m. You were brought to the station. I wanted to phone your father. You couldn't give me his phone number, or you wouldn't.
May I go now? Tell me when I've got to appear in court, but let me go now.
Michael, do you know me?
No.
You've never seen me at your home?
No.
Just look at me. I'm going to shine a light in your eyes. Where do you live?
I don't know.
You know, Inspector, this is rather outside my province, but I have a spare room. You'll obviously want Michael to go to court sometime, but that's some way off. Let him rest here for a while. I'll phone his father.
Thank you, Melvin. You know why I brought him to you now?
Yes, I know. I'll keep in contact with you, Inspector. Now, Michael, I suggest you get some rest. Obviously, you didn't get much last night. Now, if you'd follow me...
Wait. I remember that. The wheelchair.
Yes, I have to use one.
Somewhere I remember. In a house with many rooms. A man. And that chair. There was lots of laughing and talk. Long ago now.
I'll take you to your room, Michael. You can rest there. I'll contact your father and tell him you're here.
My father. Of course. My father.
I took Michael Richards to the spare room. He lay down on the bed, and with a sigh, he'd relaxed and almost immediately fell asleep. Then I went downstairs again and showed Inspector Hinton out to his car. I knew now why he'd brought the young man to me. Hinton was a hardened policeman, but he knew a troubled soul when he met one. Michael Richards was either feigning a loss of memory, or he was in a state of amnesia. To me, he wasn't acting. Now, an amnesiac needs help, and Hinton knew this. I knew it, too. And although it was really none of my business, I liked Mike Richards and his father enough to want to help. I rang the father. He came round to my house.
He's been a liar all his life.
Easy on me.
I'm the boy's father, I should know. Ever since... Well, ever since Judith and I divorced, it's been the same. He stayed out at nights, lied about where he'd been. Sometimes he disappeared for a week or so. Then he'd turn up, scruffy, dirty, smelling to high heaven, telling me that he had no idea where he'd been, what he'd done. Poppycock. What he needs is a good thrashing.
He's not a child, Morton. I examined him briefly, very briefly. He doesn't take drugs. At least he wasn't under the influence of drugs when I examined him. The light in his eyes. Pupils were normal. And I don't think he was faking either, Morton.
This is hardly any of your business, you know.
I know.
I'm sorry, Melvin.
All right.
Shall I take him home? If I do, he'll only push off again. Be picked up again somewhere by the police. I can't tell you how many fines I've paid on his behalf.
What's he trying to forget?
Well, how the devil would I know?
You're his father.
Only a name. You think me heartless, don't you? But I've stood just about enough. I've my own life to lead now. My business prospers even more than it did. I'm a busy man.
Too busy to care about your son's welfare?
No, but what do I do about him? If I felt that I was getting anywhere, but I'm not. I sent him to the best schools, to university. He dropped out. Art school, he left after a month. I've given him all that money can buy.
And affection?
I haven't held back on that, Melvin. You have my word on that. But there's a barrier now between us. I didn't erect the barrier. He did.
I last saw you, Morton, just after your divorce. Forgive me for bringing it up, but...
I divorced Judith on the grounds of her mental instability. On her inability to live a normal, balanced, sane life with me. I didn't want to do it. I had to. For my own sake. Yes, I'll be frank, and for Michael's.
She died soon after?
Yes, she took her own life. You blame me for that?
How can I? You did what you felt was right.
Now he turns out to be out of his mind?
I didn't say that. Now, where's he living?
Oh, in digs somewhere, don't ask me. He gets a monthly allowance. Funny, he never forgets to go and collect that.
What matters most to you? Your son's health or your business, your reputation?
If I knew that Mike had some affection for me, I'd try to make up to him again. But he hasn't. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
You want me to take him with me?
I doubt that he'd go with you, Morton. Would you allow him to stay here for a while? I think something has triggered off this adverse mental state of his. It could have been the divorce. Did he ever have lapses of memory before the divorce?
Once or twice. I thought he was pulling my leg. But tell me, why the interest? You're a busy man, busy writer. Why me? Why my son?
Perhaps I didn't explain it too well over the phone to you. Henton, Inspector Henton brought him to me. He was worried about Michael in more ways than one. Now, you say he's been in scrapes before?
Yes.
Minor escapades, getting tipsy, shouting in the streets?
Yes, but...
Before he left, Inspector Henton wanted to know if I could inquire fully into Michael's state of mind. Because Michael is perhaps forgetting something, perhaps something he did.
Sorry, I'm not with you.
Well, loss of memory can happen to an adolescent. It's a sign of a mental disturbance, a worry. It stops at maturity, usually. Michael's has continued. He can't remember what he did last night. Now, he's no alcoholic, so it isn't that. What is he hiding, Morton? What guilt complex in him makes him lapse into amnesia now, as he stands on the threshold of maturity?
You think he's committed a crime?
Inspector Henton thinks so.
And you, Melvin?
Something has happened. Not just the divorce, although that could be contributory. I'm no policeman, far from it, but for his own sake, Michael needs help. His mind has to be dug into. Not by me. I can find a qualified man to do it.
Then do it, please.
What do you mean by that?
Exactly what I said. I don't want anyone looking into my mind, searching deep inside me. There are secrets. I mean things that no one should know about. Why should I share them?
Secrets, Michael?
I meant just your innermost thoughts, things personal to you. Oh, look, do me a favor. I'm grateful for your interest in me, but I think I'll push off now. I've got a few quid on me. I can pick up some more from the bank at the end of the week. I'll find another place to hang out.
Michael.
Yes?
Are you going to go through your life like this?
Like what?
Don't be a fool, boy. You know what I mean. Suffering these losses of memory. Not quite knowing where you've been, what you've done. Patches of your life left blank and always a mystery to you and a worry.
If I see this quack, what will he do to me?
He'll help you.
How?
By uncovering the cause of your amnesia attacks.
And what if I've done something? Your inspector friend thinks I've done something, doesn't he?
He feels you may have done something, yes, but not necessarily a criminal act. Perhaps something against your moral code that you want to hide now. So your unconscious mind helped you forget the incident. But unfortunately, your unconscious has run into a pattern. You're forgetting too many things. Every time you, go off the rails, have a few drinks, you forget what you've done. And you could be like this all your life.
And if what I've done is bad?
Isn't it better to face it?
No, it isn't. What if I've assaulted someone, killed them even? What if I murdered someone?
Have you?
How do I know? How do I know? It's all right for you. I'm the one that's got to find out. I don't want to find out. I don't want to.
And all your life you'll be living in fear. Watching. Listening. Listening to a door opening. Waiting for the phone to ring to tell you something. Michael, I think you're exaggerating a little. You may not have taken someone's life. In fact, from what I know of you, that would be against your nature to kill.
Who truly knows anyone?
All it needs is courage.
Yes. To crucify myself. May I think about it?
I want you to come with me tomorrow. Eric Setman's a good friend of mine. Michael, you need to know about yourself. If you're going to lead a sane, normal life again.
Yes. Perhaps behind prison bars. Oh, all right. I'll do it. Tomorrow, you say?
He has had 8 attacks of amnesia in all, I understand.
That's right.
On 7 of these occasions he has, fallen foul of the law. That is how you would say it in English, eh?
That's right. And the 8th?
From what I understand from you, and also from the boy, the 8th occurred during the period 5th to 10th January this year. He remembers leaving his place of accommodation. He remembers taking a bus. He remembers traveling somewhere. And then he remembers the morning of the 10th. A Tuesday. When he went to the bank to take the allowance his father gives him, between, nothing.
And that's when it happened?
Yeah, if anything happened. You know, he has the strong Oedipus complex. He loved his mother deeply, too much so, which was unhealthy. This much I learned from him in my rooms here. With it goes a hatred for his father, for having his mother divorced. I believe the father pleaded her mental instability, huh?
So he told me.
But no record of insanity in the family, her family.
No, I've checked that.
So what she suffered was perhaps a psychoneurotic term. It happens. I can understand a man of Morton Richards' kind feeling distressed at this, at her inability to keep pace with him, as it were. He is, you say, a go-ahead man.
Oh, very much so.
So then, what next, eh? Melvin, you have checked police records for the 5th to the 10th January?
I haven't, not yet.
Please do so. You may find that he has attacked a woman. Or he has attacked a man. I give the boy back to you now. From him, find out if he has a girlfriend. Try to trace her.
And then?
And then you will ring me and tell me she has a strong physical resemblance to his mother.
I think you... Yes, I know what you mean.
Good. Then take him with you. If you have not had the good result, bring him back to me. The case really rather interests me, you know that?
No, nothing, Melvin. Whatever scrape you may have got into between the 5th and 10th of January certainly wasn't reported to us. Does that help?
Yes, a great deal. At least he hasn't committed a criminal offense.
What you mean is an offense that hasn't been reported to us, surely.
Oh, thanks for being so optimistic.
Melvin, I like the boy. I'm really putting our cards on the table. I don't believe I'm putting on the relentless bulldog act. I'm not trying to chalk up anything for my own sake. I'll be as sorry as you'll be if Michael did do something drastic in that time.
I know. I'll ring you when I've found out anything. If I find out anything. What was her name?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. This photo next to the bed here. It's of her. Your girlfriend?
No. It's someone I met at art school, I think.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure.
What's her name, this girl?
I don't know.
So why do you keep her picture?
You're asking too many questions.
I met your mother once. She was lovely like this girl. With the same wide eyes, the high brow, the long fair hair.
Don't talk about her.
This is your girlfriend, isn't it?
It's a girl. I met in the beginning of the year.
January?
Yes.
But you weren't at art school then. You told me you left art school in November last year.
I don't know.
Where do I find her, Michael?
I didn't even get her address. What's it got to do with you anyway?
A great deal. It has more to do with you, of course, and you're being cured.
I honestly can't remember where she lives.
But she is or was your girlfriend?
Yes.
Her name?
Margaret. No, June Davies. I want to go to sleep now. I'm tired. I'm very tired. Tired.
I knew I was getting close to the cause of Michael's troubles now. Guilt is a strange thing. One's conscious mind craves punishment for something, for the crime or wrong committed. The unconscious mind covers that craving. But Michael, above all, wanted to be punished for what he'd done. Yes, that sounds odd, doesn't it? But it's true. By being punished, Michael's guilt would be absolved. His conscience could breathe again, so to speak. It took me 3 days to trace the girl called June Davies. Early that morning, I knocked on the door of her small flat.
Yes? What do you want?
June Davies?
Yes. Do you want something?
Just a little of your time. I'm Dr. Hoffman. You won't have heard of me. May I come in?
Well, what do you want to know?
Michael Richards.
Did he send you?
In a way, yes.
Yes, come in if you want to. I was just about to get myself a cup of tea. Would you care for some?
Oh, thank you.
Sugar?
2, please.
Here you are. I hope it's not too strong.
Oh, it's just how I like it. You don't seem totally surprised at my call.
Well, I was expecting someone. Michael himself or someone.
When did you see him last?
On the morning of the 10th of January. Why?
He's at my house. He's a very ill young man. You knew him well?
Yes. Well enough to know that he tried to kill me. You don't believe me, do you? Look here, on my throat. I still have the bruises from his fingers.
Yes.
I didn't go to the police. I just locked my door for a few days. I could have gone to them. Perhaps I should have.
Yes, but...
But I couldn't. I couldn't go through with it.
How long have you known him?
6 months. We were going to get married. Then he... Why did he do it to me? Why? We were sitting here, talking as we've always done. Then suddenly his eyes seemed to go blank and he reached out for me. I thought he wanted to kiss me. Then his fingers went round my throat and he started squeezing. I kicked at him, hit at him, and he got up and ran out of the flat. That was the last time I saw him.
But you love him still?
Yes.
And you'll help me?
Yes.
Then let me explain what I'm going to do. How do you mean, Eric?
It's simple, my friend. By dying, his mother deserted him. For this, the confusion of love and hatred in him. The girl seems like the mother. He wishes to punish the mother for deserting him. But this he cannot do, of course, so...
He punishes the girl, June?
Yeah, that exactly.
And the girl, June, could he truly love her in the end?
But of course. Does not a girl often choose the father image, and the boy the mother image? In right proportions, it is healthy. Please, bring him to me. I shall mentally speaking, break the boy down and build him up again. Yeah. And he will be a normal human being once more when I have finished the treatment with him.
I got Michael to see Eric Setman, and the treatments began.
Morton Richards, his father, was only too happy to foot the bills. Obviously, he was not happy at the relationship he had with his son and wanted it rectified. Michael stayed with me for a while and then moved back to his digs, which he rather suddenly remembered. And June Davies waited patiently. Dr. Setman refused to allow Michael to see her, and then one day he rang me. He told me that Michael was mentally sound again. The agony had gone from him. The attacks of amnesia would not recur.
Hi.
Hello?
Hang on a second. Shall I get out? I mean, what will you two do?
I think we'll take the car down the street, and I'll drop Melvin at his house.
No, thank you.
Perhaps we might even have a drink together, Melvin, to celebrate.
Of course.
Off you go, son. Don't keep her waiting too long.
Go on, Michael.
All right. Thanks for the lift. Dad, I'll ring you tonight. Just to say hello. Okay?
Of course.
Bye, Dad.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, you
Bye,
two.
son.
I shan't forget that sight in a long time. Sentimental, yes, but truly heartwarming. As we pulled away, I looked back. He was standing next to her, looking down at her. Then he reached out his hand, took hers, and they smiled at each other. In their smiles was all the radiance and promise of young love. As we turned the corner, they were still standing there. Then they walked up the street, still hand in hand, close to each other. As it should be. Yes, the story you've heard tonight had a happy ending. And I'm happy to think that I played a small part in it. And for now, until next week, this is your host, Melvin Hoffman, wishing you all good night.
Medical File, the documented story of the men and women who in hospitals, research centers, and lonely surgeries guard our lives. The Lost Hours was written and directed by Brian O'Shaughnessy and produced for Bristol Myers, the manufacturers of Vote toothpaste, by David Manley.